think we've definitely gone off the rails this time.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up my weight again.
On this week's episode of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, we talk about Google's new licensing and what the antitrust lawsuit might mean for K-12 technology. We also break down the latest lawsuit against IXL and what this could mean for parental consent. Thanks for listening.
Live from the NTP studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. This is episode 192. I am Josh. With me, as always, is Chris.
I'm Chris. How's it going?
And Mark.
Hello.
If you're just tuning in for the first time, Chris and I are from Missouri. We're from relatively medium to small size school districts, and Mark is a recent retiree from one of the largest districts on the eastern seaboard of the country. He likes to call it New England. I don't know. And we talk about K-12 issues, K-12 technology issues.
Hot topics.
Share us with your friends. Shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. Like and subscribe, as the kids say. Smash that subscribe button.
We have a phone number, too, that only gets spammed.
Yeah, I've noticed that. We started getting spam texts this week.
It's mostly me.
That's going to be in the podcast description, but give us a call.
Did your UPS package get stuck in transit and you need to click on that link to
I need to
get it out? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's real.
Hey, I fished my staff this week, and it was with a UPS delivery.
Good for you.
How'd it go?
Good job.
Had some clicks.
Okay, so I know this isn't on topic, but there have been a couple LinkedIn posts in the last week about, are phishing exercises the right exercises or the right training methodology to be doing? And one of the articles talks about embedded training is the preferred method and much better content grasp, or the people get the content better.
What's that mean? What is that?
Well, that's the first question I asked. I'm like, what the hell is embedded content? Or embedded training? Explain, if you can define that, I'll be happy to do it. Just tell me what it is.
Example. So I work with a company that the CISO does not believe in phishing tests and instead incorporates cybersecurity lessons into everything they do. And so as something bad happens or as something comes up, it's, they talk about it, they socialize it, and it's embedded into their culture and their community. It's really cool.
But how would that translate to schools, Mark?
I don't know.
Mark, that's the point of this podcast.
Like just this week, we get the legit, this was awesome timing. The day before my phishing campaign starts, we get a legit attack.
You sent out an alert yesterday about that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was really cool. It's like a fake Google Drive share thing going around. So then I sent out like a spam alert thing to my staff and, hey, this is the subject line. This is what it looks like. I guess you can use those examples and really go back and like explain, hey, this is something that really happened to us.
Yeah.
And actually show it. Because I usually just do a quick alert, like, don't click it.
Right.
But I don't unpack, like, here was all the stuff that it was going to do if we did click it.
I do that when we kind of have more casual conversations and training sessions about, bad things that can happen. I still bring up that phishing, not ransom, the phishing gift card scam that we had a faculty member fall for. And that hits home because it's it's a coworker that fell for it. It's very real. It was a loss of $400. So I get that, but just to throw out the baby with the bathwater and say that phishing exercises are useless, I don't know. I mean, it definitely has my staff more alert to phishing emails, and I tell them, forward them to me. We'll figure it out if it's real or not. I'm happy to do that. I would gladly look at 1,000 emails from staff members than have a staff member just click on something blindly.
What I don't like, so like when we had the bad guy trying to get us, I'm getting those emails and everybody's like, hey, this is you, right? Like, ha.
Okay. Yeah.
And like, that's like I don't. I'm glad they're telling me.
Right.
I'm like, no, that's not me. What did you do with that? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
They think you're like Dwight from The Office. Remember that episode where he did the fire drill, but he like lit the place on fire and like locked all the doors and yeah.
Okay. I've never seen a full episode of The Office.
What?
No, I haven't.
Hmm.
Wait a minute.
Even
Wait a minute.
I have seen lots of The Office.
Josh, you spent like a year trying to convince Chris to watch Ted Lasso,
Yeah.
and you haven't seen The Office?
Uh-uh. No.
I don't know.
I think we should stop the episode right here and make you watch an episode.
Okay. See you later.
I can't believe you haven't seen The Office. It's like it's your humor. It's
I
right up
think
your alley.
I've tried multiple times and I can't do it.
What do you mean
do
you
it.
can't do it?
It doesn't
You just have to sit there and watch the TV.
It
It's
doesn't
not-
bring me in. It doesn't I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Hey, this is super random, but that's kind of what we do anyway. But something else I can't do that I realized one of my technicians does today. So
Jumping jacks.
I'm sitting in my I'm sitting in at my desk and I hear quite the stir in the office next, where the two other guys are. Maintenance guy John, he's in there too. There's something going on crazy in there. I see one of my guys. I was on a Zoom call. Like pops his head in, like they're trying to like get me. Something's going on. I go in there.
They wrestle.
I never talk about Trevor. So Trevor's one of our technicians, or the main technician. He only uses his index fingers for typing, and he types ridiculously fast. And everyone, we had a math teacher in the office. Everyone was just crowded around this guy's computer, watching him type with two fingers.
I want a video. I want a video.
It looked fake, and he was killing it. And then we spent too much time. Let's just say we went to like typingclub.com or something, and we had a typing round off. I got second place, and I always win. But the index finger guy took me down. I had more accuracy.
Wow.
Huh.
And I was nervous.
A guy with
I couldn't figure out the cursor.
2 fingers, and he typed faster than you with all 10?
Yes. With proper posture and the whole bit, he took me down.
We're gonna have to call him Trevor Magic Fingers inserted last name.
It was wild. Wild day today.
I got a lot of jokes that I cannot say.
I know. Yeah. And if you only knew the whole story, Mark, I'm sure there's parts that Chris isn't telling us.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
To
that was the
protect
day.
his identity. Interesting. Chris, you want to hit a sponsor before we get into the news?
I do. I want to talk about Scale Computing. They've been hanging out with us for several weeks now. They can do your hyperverged infrastructure. They can do it well for you. They give you that slick phrase, that single pane of glass. They can do a custom built environment for all of your stuff. They can get you deployed with your hardware, with your software. They're competing with your VMware. They're competing with Nutanix. They're the real deal. They can help you with your data center refresh, your virtual desktops, storage refresh, things you got going on, disaster recovery, edge computing, all that good stuff. They'll take on your Proxmox, your Cisco HyperFlex, anything that you got right now that you're thinking about ditching. Scale Computing wants a chance with that. Check them out. I'll put an email address in the podcast description. Reach out to them. Mention K12 Tech Talk. Mention K12 Tech Pro. They can hook you up. They understand that we have a lean IT team, a lean budget, and they're wanting to fix that for K12. So check out Scale Computing.
All right, Mark, over to you in the news.
All right.
Step
well,
on
actually,
up here, news boy Mark.
we have a new news theme song, by the way, which I don't. The producers just brought this into me. So
Is this why you were being unprofessional? And
let me just get the theme song started here.
Here we go.
All right. So first up on the news, let me just see here. Which one should we start with?
Are we getting a copyright? Wait, dude.
Yeah.
I've just been handed a copyright.
Cease and desist is on the desk.
All right. Let's just stop this. Stop this right here. Stop this right here. This is enough.
Do we need to go to a cage match, Mark?
Obviously, the reason for the wrestling soundboard, which I have a lot of sounds ready to go, by the way, the entire episode.
Are you ready to?
Trump has announced his pick for education secretary, which is Linda McMahon.
Let me stop you. It's
Okay.
President-elect.
President-elect Trump has announced his pick for education secretary, Linda McMahon. This was, as of this recording, it's just a couple days ago, as well as Brendan Carr for the FCC. Both of those are pretty influential to our world, so we're going to keep an eye on that one and probably go through a couple of updates over the next few months as both Linda McMahon and Brendan Carr settle into their roles. I'm really, really eager to see where the FCC goes with the whole E-rate situation. But we've talked about that at length.
You've had some pretty strong reactions to that appointment, Mark.
To Brendan Carr?
Uh-huh.
I've read a lot of his writings, and here's the thing. I don't disagree with a lot of the things that people are saying about E-rate and, you know, where it needs to be funded and everything like that. I just think we can't really banter around this for a little while. Like, we have a ticking time bomb and it needs to get settled. So I agree with him in some things. I disagree with him in others. I'm just really eager for the FCC to settle this whole E-rate situation because I'm really worried about billions of dollars.
I told you guys, like, I want to write an open letter.
Yeah,
Brendan Carr.
I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't want to be a target of anything.
All right. We did say we were not going to go into politics, and then here we go.
I do think the wrestling sounds need to stay.
Okay, all right, we'll keep those going.
So for
big
listeners,
congratulations from one of the three of the podcast.
For listeners that don't know, Linda McMahon, you might know her husband from what is it even called now? It used to be
WWE.
Yeah, it used to be WWF.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you know, Hacksaw Jim Duggan and all those cool people, and now it's WWE. Yes, the Linda McMahon of the McMahon family.
Shut your damn mouth.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, we got to move. I should just close this entirely because there's a lot that I don't know what they are, and I know they're inappropriate. Okay, moving on. DocuSign. DocuSign is in the news, and it's something we should all be paying attention to.
DocuSign's in the news.
DocuSign. So there's been some alerts sent out, including some from even the Department of Education, that impersonation attacks are coming rampant from DocuSign, and some of the watchers of cybersecurity attacks are saying that the last month has seen a massive increase in DocuSign usage in cyber attacks. There's a few different ploys going on, but one of the important things is that they're coming from or to government agencies. So some of the big cities, Houston has seen some, Chicago, different agencies or public entities have seen DocuSign impersonation forms going out to their vendors to fill out a DocuSign. And they come in different forms. They are legit DocuSign requests. And then at the end, sometimes it's saying, well, if you'd like to get a signed copy of your document, please click here. And then it's a fake phishing login to Office 365. So they're legit usage of DocuSign, but being used inappropriately and getting people to tricked. So some big stuff going on with DocuSign. Keep an eye on that one. If you see any DocuSign forms or emails coming into maybe your finance folks or some of your vendors,
or even like a invite to a cage match.
Gotta watch it.
All right. That rings true for the next two.
If you could challenge one wrestler.
Oh, no. I think if you to fight me or Josh, and you're like, I think I could take who you want to fight.
No, I don't want to answer that question. Josh, you finish yours.
if you could meet one wrestler, who would it be?
I don't know about wrestler. I would love to meet Mike Tyson right now because I watched
him
two
dance.
Great rounds of
hours.
Boxing. I watched 2 great rounds of boxing, and then
you were impressed with his bare buttocks on Netflix, weren't you?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, forgot about
I
that
liked the
part. It
fight. I loved it.
was a good fight. Good times.
What?
Listen,
Good fight.
my boy had all his friends over, crowded house, lots of masculinity yelling going on.
The ladies' fight was the best fight of the night.
That
It
was a
was
that was a brutal
the
fight.
bloody fight.
That was not in the news section, but we'll keep going here. Let's go to Google because we've got two topics for Google tonight in the news. The first one is the antitrust regulators are asking the judge to potentially consider selling off the Chrome browser from Google. Why does that matter to K-12? Well, as you can imagine, the Chrome browser is linked to Chromebooks, and Chromebooks are linked to most districts in the country, and a lot of there's been a few conversations on K-12 Tech Pro and on different forums around what does this mean? Should Google sell off the browser for Chromebooks and Google Admin Console and licensing and all that stuff? So
It's fun to think about.
It'd be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So there's really no information right now, and it is also not a confirmed thing. It's the regulators are asking the judge to consider this one. I would anticipate this is a couple of years down the road, should this ever happen, and then we'll have a lot more information as to what happens to Chromebooks and the Google Admin Console stuff. So,
I
something
just
to
I
keep an eye on,
don't.
though.
We were talking about this in the office today. So like, okay, that happens. So does like Microsoft, Apple just step in? Like, does it really go to a like a fourth company, or does it just like does it really help anything? The
It'll be
giants remain kind of thing.
Yeah,
it'll be about as spin-off as Internet Explorer was from Microsoft when they had to,
yeah.
do their steps.
Yeah. Yeah. I would anticipate if they were to do that, there's going to be a spin-off company. It's not going to be a company we've ever heard of. It's probably a company that's formed just for the purposes of buying Chrome. And
Right.
yeah. So yeah, that's the interesting thing with the Google antitrust stuff that we'll have to keep an eye on in the next few months and few years.
There was the question with that posed on Pro with that is
Yeah.
and this is just kind of interesting to ask, I think. Do we think we ever move on? And surely yes, at some point, but what is beyond Chromebook? What is beyond Google? Is there ever going to be like one-to-one something else? Like what's the next?
Yeah.
What is it?
It would have to be a perfect storm. Google took a lot of market share away from Apple by having a device that was priced right,
Hmm.
and nothing was really kept locally. Um, it would have to be something as paradigm shifting as the Chromebook was. I don't know that exists right now.
Is there do you guys wonder if we end up with just, you know, a small device, a phone, like
Nah, not gonna
kids
happen.
kids are used to that?
Nope.
Is it us? Sometimes I think it's us old people that are like, oh, I gotta get the bigger screen.
Yeah, but an
Like,
11-inch
do
screen's
we,
not that big of a screen. I think the big thing is keyboard
for old people, right?
for
I just talked
for
about
anybody
Trevor
that
my tech using
types.
his two index fingers.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like we're like many years into a kindergarten kid expects the screen to be touch.
Yes, you're right.
Like we are many years into that now. It begs some question on that, I think. But I don't know who we need a fourth party.
Let's start one.
We need the new thing.
Well, speaking of new things, the other Google news is new licensing. So Google announced some new licensing models. They're going to be requiring everybody in the fundamentals to be licensed now, and they're also adding a couple of new licensing, including one is just Gmail. So if you need somebody who only needs an email account, which they said is great for alumni. Do you guys give email accounts to alumni?
God, no.
No.
Yeah. I don't know of anybody that really does, but there's that option if you need to, and a couple of other different options. One is for archived users, such and such. Not a lot of big changes. There's really not. I don't foresee most districts seeing any changes. Chris, you are the expert on Google licensing, though. Do you want to break this down and talk about who might see some changes in the next few weeks or few months with the Google license updates?
Sure. Yeah. The new license types I think is cool. The Gmail only user, we have utility accounts. Lots of schools have accounts where they only want to give Gmail. That's always kind of been a curious thing of, you know, what are you doing with that? The archive user as an account that you can assign that it's going to retain that data. That's great for use. There's some interesting stuff. I think the biggest sentences that kind of stick out with this thing is it's at the end, updated minimum purchase requirement. And I think this affects a lot of small, medium-sized schools potentially that kind of played a game with Education Standard and Education Plus. So you would get one staff license included to every 4 students you would buy. So a lot of schools, if you look at those tiers and you see what you get with the different tiers, a lot of schools would want their staff to have Education Plus as the example, but not necessarily their students. So in a case like a school my size of 2,000 with 200 staff, if I wanted to get to that 200 staff number, I only had to buy 800 student licenses. So I could kind of play a game where I'm like, I want my high school kids to have the student license, but I don't care about the rest. I want all my staff to have the Education Plus staff licensing. Again, 800, so I'm paying for 800 licenses as opposed to the 2,000 students I have. Well, this reads that they're going to update it to where the minimum purchase requirements, they want it to cover all students and all staff in a domain. So again, going back to my 2,000 kids, I have to now buy for 2,000 kids as opposed to the 800 that I was used to. So that's going to increase. If I'm used to paying a 800 student bill, I've more than doubled the amount of licenses that I'm going to have to purchase.
And that's only if you want to buy the Plus, Education Plus, right? The fundamentals is still going to be
standard
free.
And plus.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, fundamentals still free. And then again, I think that's the cool stuff. The Gmail only, the archive user. It's another one of those. And this is why we talk, like we sell Google licensing with K-12 Tech Pro. We got into that because we think Google licensing sucks. Like to get to some of the cybersecurity tools and some of the good stuff that they can do for teachers, you have to upgrade. That sucks. This is another one of those that just kind of feels like Google realized that schools were playing a game with the license count. So now they're going to fix it to try to get more licenses to be purchased. That's the bummer of it. There is good news, though, as far as like don't freak out, because it kind of says starting February 2025, some of this new stuff happens. But you actually have a while if you're already on with licensing. If you already have standard or have plus, you have an additional year before this policy hits you with the additional licenses. So you have until January 1st, 2026. If you're already doing stuff on a multi-year commitment, you have until July 1st, 2025. So it's not like, hey, it's November, figure this out by February. Google is giving you some time.
I think if they do the archive licenses right, like if they'll let you auto assign it based on OU membership, and when you auto assign that, it'll auto remove any other license that's assigned to that account. Because that's the problem I have right now. We have a bunch of Plus licenses, and when we go to suspend a faculty account, it doesn't auto remove that license. So I'm running GAM scripts and stuff on suspended accounts. So if I can apply an archive license to an account and then it automatically removes my Plus license, that would be great.
That's been like a crazy complaint, like with Google, is like having to manually do that work with licenses. Again, it's almost Google wanting money because you have to buy like more licenses than you need because you're always trying to play this game of how many licenses you have assigned kind of bit. So archive users are a pretty big deal. And there were a couple solutions. I know like the CDWG, the Amped, they had like an extra kind of like console that would manage the archive users and stuff for you. So again, this kind of levels the playing field a little bit for everybody, what they have going on. That the It's kind of like they gave bad news at the end of this and they gave some good news in the middle. The Gmail only user and the archive user is good stuff.
Yeah. What else you got, Mark?
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Another article, I forgot to mention this one too, but it's again from the Department of Education. The Office of Civil Rights on Tuesday of this week released a guide for avoiding discriminatory use of artificial intelligence. It's actually, I started to go through this thing and it's actually pretty good because it gives you a bunch of different examples of what you might need to watch out for. The very first example, I thought I would just read this one and I'll just kind of paraphrase it because it's a little bit long. But essentially, what they're saying is if you have a teacher, you're a high school teacher, and you're using AI to determine if your students have plagiarized or have cheated, students' writing abilities may differ depending on their background. So, an English language learner who is not a native English speaker may be flagged inappropriately through these AI plagiarism checkers. And in doing so, you might be discriminating against English language learners because these artificial intelligence tools are less likely to understand a language learner's written writing. The other one is there's a few other examples here too around the usage of AI tools around risk management and identifying low risk or high risk students. And while the AI programs themselves may not be the problems, the usage of them with source data that could be discriminatory gives you a couple of different things to look through. So it's a very long guide. It's a few dozen pages, or it's actually maybe about 15, 20 pages. And it's all example based and definitely something we're going to link in the show notes. It's a really, really good guide and helps you start to think about different ways you might be using AI inappropriately or unfortunately discriminatory based on some of these examples. So something to think about.
I saw a post on LinkedIn from everyone's friend, Dr. Ryan, that COSIN has released a new AI guidance document again. It looks like a version 2 or the next step. So we might want to take a look at that in tandem with this, Mark.
I had by the way, what I'm about to say is brought to you by Dominic Mayer at Extreme Networks. Email dmayer@extremenetworks.com for all your switching, networking, etc. needs. So I had an interesting thing this week, and I think it speaks to like AI is not going away, guys. Like there's going to be more guidance coming out. We need to get our stuff together. My superintendent emailed me. It was kind of like a one-liner sentence, 2 attachments of, hey, here's the AI policy and reg that's being presented next month. Just want you to look at it, make sure it's fine. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a really big deal.
Wow.
We have attorney, whatever, that's always staying on top. So they just drafted this thing up and my boss said, it looks good, Chris, check it out. So I spent some time checking out. Mark, when we were at Vermont Fest, one of the things I preached was, hey, we looked at stuff and we realized we don't need a policy. We don't need a reg. It's pretty much already incorporated what we're doing. Not anymore. If the board approves it next month, we will have a separate AI policy and regulation. And like, there's stuff in there. And I completely think it's good to get ahead of the policy and get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Because we're saying that we're cool with AI for students and for teachers. Like we're saying we're in.
Whoa.
I didn't know we were in, but we're in. And that was, it's got like the 3, I actually really liked it. And it's some of what we've seen before with the 3 tiers. Is AI allowed in my class?
Yeah.
Is it defined? Is it all in? And what we landed on, there's going to be a policy, there's going to be a reg. And then our teachers are going to know that we are currently running at level 1, which is no AI. So, and we have to figure out what's supported and what's not still. But this stuff, we got to get it figured out because it's in our schools.
Yep.
All right. We have one last article, but we're actually going to transition into the main topic. So, Chris, do you want to do a sponsored break for a second?
Sure. Email Fortinet@fortinet.com. That's our friend Chris Illingworth over there. We joke about all the Forta products that there are, but there are a lot of Forta products. FortiGate, of course, their firewall is what they are highly known for. We've heard a lot about I won't say what firewall I use, but other firewalls having some issues. Palo Alto, one such firewall. We used to bash or make little jokes about how much Fortinet is transparent about what they got going on. No firewall is completely perfect, but Fortinet gets pretty close, right, Josh? Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty darn close.
So email Chris Illingworth, Fortinet podcast at Fortinet.com.
You know what pushes it over the edge is that extra service from Chris Illingworth.
With a smile.
Yep, with a smile.
All right, last story. We are going to be talking about parental consent, and the reason we're going to be talking about this one is IXL is now in the news. The same.
Ooh, I almost said a really bad joke.
Yeah, we're on the edge of a lot of bad jokes tonight.
Yep.
I've turned off the soundboard, so like I got a whole bunch.
That's a good call too.
It's a very good call.
It wasn't WWE related, but it was another whatever. We'll move on.
So the same law firm that is suing Power School is also suing IXL for, and I'm going to be very careful with my words here, but kind of predatory behaviors towards student data and basically profiting off of student data, misusing student data, and collecting large amounts without really letting parents know. It is right now being in the preliminary stages. The judges are taking a look at all the evidence. But one of the main issues here that parents have is that these EdTech applications, and I think this is a case that everybody should be watching after, because both this one and the Power School one really are going after these big EdTech companies that are just doing what I think a lot of companies do in collecting large amounts of student data. And when we think about data that we pass over to the company, we typically think of what goes through Clever, ClassLink with the roster, and you have student names and maybe date of birth. But what they're saying is these apps are collecting a whole lot more in terms of the metadata, the information that a student might be entering or recording as they're participating in learning activities. And then even IXL, they point to in the legal brief that IXL has all these surveys on their website, and they talk about, how are you using IXL, and are you using this particular part of the program? If so, why or why not? And then in doing so, they're collecting even more. So you as the school district may say, I know exactly what we're passing to IXL, but what you don't know is what IXL is collecting on top of that through surveys, through marketing tools, and then what metadata and what learning activities are they storing as well. So it's a class action lawsuit. This one, coupled with the Power School one, I think it is really meant to send a message to the community. But where we fall into this question is, when are you collecting consent from a parent for a student to use a particular app? Because IXL tried to get this thing thrown out saying, well, the school acted on behalf of the parent and consented towards the usage of IXL per FERPA. And the court said, no, that doesn't apply here. So, Josh, Chris, do we need to start to think about parental consent for all these different learning apps? And if so, how do we do it? Or do you know of anybody that's doing this right now?
I know several districts that with their yearly online registration process that they require parents do, for proving residency and all that fun stuff. There is and I think Google actually has a template out there for, Google's core services and then their add-on services for parental consent. I know there are districts that will add to that list to include their educational applications. If you're a student data privacy agreement member with A4L, there's a public facing part of that you could probably point to and say, these are all of our current applications that we have privacy agreements with. Just full disclosure, we use these, and capture a consent for that as well. Let's see, who else? Oh, the big huddle brouhaha a couple weeks ago. Yep. It was recommended that athletic directors start getting parent consent. And we had a conversation about that through our new athletic registration process I can't remember the name of the company now, that they're going to add a form in there for parental consent for huddle into the athletic registration system. So I think if your district if you are leveraging an online registration process through your student information system, it is super easy to capture that consent in a form that's required through your online registration process.
But are you suggesting one like paragraph that says like by clicking here you consent to using these tools, or are you actually breaking it out? Because you just said we got to do this now for Huddle.
I think you need to list the applications. Yeah.
Whoa.
And so that opens up that can of worms of, if you're capturing that consent at the beginning of the year and Miss Smith finds an application in November that she wants to use that is going to need consent, are you waiting until next fall to get consent so she can use that application, or are you going out and actively getting that consent so she can use it right away? That's, I think, internal discussion that you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do.
We at our secondary, it's included in a student handbook that the parent signs as well. And at elementary, we have some papers that we do every year where they consent to that they're going to be issued a device. Yep. They have to say that they're cool with that, and then it's like our user acceptable use policy that they're signing on to. And we added a paragraph. It's been there for a very long time, and it's very generic, but it talks about you're cool with your kid using Google. I know that we mentioned Google in particular. We mentioned YouTube in particular. And then we just get into some sentences about third party, everything else that we say that we want to use, and we don't list it. But that has made my heart feel like, okay. Mm-hmm. But I've often wondered if we're going to end up where we're supposed to list, here's the 30, 40 things that we say we use.
Yeah.
The worry of that is that leads to the day that the parent can say, I'm cool with 29 of 30.
Yeah.
And then we're doing some wacky stuff with
Google
OUs, whatever OUs, and the teacher has to be aware that IXL is not cool with 5 kids, but cool with the other 25. That's why I don't want to go to that. I like the pocket that we're in, that we just kind of say, you agree that whatever we're going to use, you're cool with it.
Yeah. And that's
we put in sentences like about them collecting data. Like there's a little sentence in there. And again, I feel like, I feel okay.
And I think you could be okay with that as long as you're making that list public somewhere. If a parent wants to see that list, okay, what applications are you really using? And then you can point them to your A4L public, your public facing page for A4L that you have all of these agreements with these 50 different websites that's constantly being updated, and you can show that there's a privacy agreement executed there. I think that's an easy gimme, if they're wanting to see that. And why not? Why not show them?
Was it your state that was it Missouri that passed a law recently that parents had to consent into or be able to inspect their child's curriculum or things like that? There was
I think we do have the curriculum. Yeah.
Because that's ultimately what it is, right? It's not about like, do you want to use this app or not? It's the content within the app, right? Both the curriculum, the material that a student's being exposed to, as well as the data privacy, all that kind of stuff.
Just Google search brain pop, and what was it, Chris? That district down by you. There was a substitute teacher that assigned a brain pop assignment or something.
Yeah.
Was it brain pop? Kahoot. Yeah, and it was woke agenda.
Controversial.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing that stinks too, that our district that's good that our district does with these handbooks and stuff. If you're going to put in sentences like, hey, you consent, for it to have any kind of meat and actually matter, you have to get the parent to consent, and you have to. I despise the beginning of the year. We give a little bit of grace for a while, but we have to know, we track it, that we collected signatures that this kid is cool. And then if it's usually several weeks in, but we turn off Google accounts.
Yeah.
If they didn't do that, and that impacts everybody.
Yeah.
And then you have to get those things signed, and we turn the Google account back on. It's a bummer.
Well, and we can talk all day long about like, well, if we need to go this route, if you're in a state that passes a law that requires parental consent, or if some of these class action lawsuits start scaring ed tech companies into requiring parental consent, there's going to be ways for us to handle this, right? There's going to be third-party apps that come up and say, we'll handle this. A4L will handle this. You know, some of the rostering tools that we use will allow for parental consent. But ultimately, the problem is not on our shoulders. It's what
Right.
is a teacher going to do? Like you mentioned, Josh,
Yep.
you've got 29 out of 30 students who are okay using this one app.
Yeah.
Do you not use this app anymore? Do you
Like that sucks.
Yeah. And it's awful for the teacher. It's something that you can't keep up with that kind of stuff. But also it's really embarrassing for the student if their parent doesn't allow them to use the
Sure.
same tools and curriculum materials that their peers are using. This stuff I think is needed. It is really, really needed, especially when you read the details of what IXL is doing and how they're doing it. You're like, oh, this is very, very shaky. And I think this will help to kind of clean up some of those rough edges, but it's a slippery slope. And it's not a slippery slope that's going to lead to better outcomes for students.
I was just thinking about this has been a year or so ago. It was like our theater department, and they were doing this cool thing. They were going to partner with the neighboring school district's theater department. So they needed to do Zoom calls together with students outside of our school district, which were typically against that. So we had to do special permission slip, special deal. They're going to use Zoom, blah, 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 blah. I had to do Google Admin Console work to put them into a different OU for that short period of time so they can get this they can't normally get to. And that was like a little glimpse of like, what is the world like if we have to figure out this kid can get to this and this kid can't get to that. I didn't even consider the thing of what's it feel like as the kid in the class that can't get to that assignment that gets the paper packet because it's IXL day.
Yeah.
It's a wreck, like, which is what makes you want to do a generic, just consent to this, please. Like, I'm a parent, I'm all about parental consent. But man, is that the parent getting too involved? Like, trust the school that you're sending your kid to make the right choices with the websites and applications.
Do you remember? Go ahead,
ahead,
Josh.
Mike.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, or is the school relying on content delivery too much and needs to get back to the teacher delivering the content?
Yeah, why do we need 40 apps and websites? And it's not even that low of a number anymore. It's way up there, right?
Yeah, several hundred. Yeah.
Do you remember in the beginning of the pandemic, it was around the period, it was before we hated each other, but after we were done searching for toilet paper, when everyone's like, are we okay with Zoom? I think it's in China. Like, are we allowed to use Zoom or not? And while we were going through like all hell in the early days of the pandemic, our union sent out an email to all teachers and saying, do not use Zoom. It's not FERPA compliant. And I lost it. I absolutely lost my mind. I was like, this is the last thing I need. There's no such thing as a FERPA compliant tool or, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a fun time. I don't need more of those.
That's why you retired, wasn't it?
Let's go back.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Go back where?
To just labs with Word. And basic internet searches.
Did I tell you guys my middle school did a No Technology Friday a couple weeks ago? Yeah.
How'd it go?
Really well.
No tech problems that day.
Yeah, no tech problems. It's funny. I was over there. It was before lunch, so 10 o'clock ish.
They were like, "What are you doing here, boy?"
No, I was. I don't remember why I was over there actually. But I had looked at their bandwidth usage before I went over, and normally, like, we're using some bandwidth, man. Like, that building's always 100 meg or more. They were using less than 7 meg worth of bandwidth into that building. I told the principal, I'm like, your whole building is using about what it takes to watch a video on Netflix.
And of course, you went into the firewall to look at who that was, and you're
it was our
this kid has cheated on No Tech Day.
Yeah, it was probably a teacher. No, I wasn't in the firewall.
I was in the content filter.
No, I was in our network monitoring tool.
Hold on, I gotta search for my nerd Facebook or my nerd soundboard.
Hey, what would your wrestling name be, Mark?
My wrestling name? I don't know. Is that a thing?
Magic Mark.
I think we'll probably all have to pick wrestling names to go into.
Hey, by the way, that was brought to you by Verkada. They have one platform to simplify school security. They can protect your campus security, speed up response to when bad things are happening, improve reliability, and minimize costs. Check out Verkada for your cloud,
Yeti.
camera needs, etc.
And Yeti cups.
Holla.
What else, guys? Anything
Do you
else?
think we've lived in the wild, wild west of the internet?
Oh, I think
and
it's coming.
one-to-one and all that, and we're getting ready to. It's going away.
I think we're on the other pendulum swing of 1-to-1. Yes, I do.
I'm ready.
Mark?
I'm tired of the internet.
Yes.
Too many apps, too many
Yep.
things. Now AI has just made it even more complicated. So yeah, I'm on board for no tech Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Do you,
Says the
do you
guy
need-
who retired.
do you need my consent though for that though? Yeah.
You do.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Josh wants your consent.
That is it. That was our extended news main topic.
All right. Any
But without technology, we wouldn't be recording this podcast.
True. Are we
And
recording
all of
next
our
week?
messages during the day,
Thanksgiving is next week. Are we taking the week off?
Yeah, we're gonna have to take the week off.
1,000%.
I'll be
Alright,
out your
so-
way though.
Are you?
I'm coming to Indiana for Thanksgiving.
You should drive over. It's only a couple hours.
Pass.
All right, we didn't prep for this, but let's get serious for a second. Tell
Uh-oh.
me something you're thankful for.
Bourbon.
Wow.
Wow, you could have said your wife.
That's a given.
You could have said Mark.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given. I'm spending time with you guys.
I'm thankful for the two of you guys.
That's all I really
Okay,
wanted.
I'm thankful
And
for you
that's been the
too.
episode. Thank you, Mark.
Josh is drinking a bunch of bourbon while we're thanking each other on Thanksgiving.
Chris didn't say anything.
I like taking glory.
How's the carnivore diet? We haven't had an update on the carnivore
Oh, I
diet.
fell way off that thing.
Mark.
Oh.
It's hard. Okay. When you only eat meat, I can get through breakfast. I can do eggs and whatever. I can do sausage. I can do bacon. I can get through lunch because I usually am kind of chilling at my desk, not being judged. But in any social situation,
Bread.
it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
And I couldn't do it. Like
Okay.
I have my own issues and my own weirdness. You want to throw in, I'm the guy at the restaurant only eating meat. I couldn't do it. So I bailed. I'm just back to like Fat Chris is here to stay. I don't know. Thanksgiving's coming.
It's a
Wow.
bad time for a diet, Chris.
Okay, how about intermittent fasting?
I'm pretty down with that.
That's not bad.
I kind of do that on accident.
It's really just skip a couple meals. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. I think we've definitely gone off the rails this time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing up my weight again. Check us out, K12 Tech Pro. We do Vitals calls on Fridays at noon Central. Join us. We hang out. We talk through the trending technology topics and issues similar to this, but with the K12 Tech Pro community. Josh, what are you thankful for?
Nothing. The moment's moved on. It's fine. Carry on.
All right. Love you guys. You don't have to say it back.
Don't make it
I
don't make it awkward.
wasn't. I wasn't going to.
Don't.
See
You don't have to say it back. It's fine.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K-12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We were buying words about the phrase of the way and selling songs just to